The Anunnaki are said to have been a secretive race of aliens or superhumans that existed during the dawn of humanity. Many people claim that they are a work of fiction or fantasy, but there's a lot of evidence that claims the Anunnaki may have been real. Some scientists and researchers believe they could have been extraterrestrials who created humanity, but others claim they are nothing more than the work of an urban legend. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. The Sumerian High Culture. In official history books, the Sumerians are said to have lived sometime around the year 5000 BC. This makes them one of the first, if not the very first, human civilizations to ever walk the earth. They lived in southern Mesopotamia, but they were far more advanced than any other civilization that would pop up in the years following their demise. For many people, the Sumerians are suspected to be the first worldwide high culture. They were also the first people to use a writing system as a way for documenting history, rules, important information, and education. We don't fully understand how they were able to develop such a complicated way of keeping track of records, but it's impressive what they were able to do with such a small amount of resources and knowledge. If you think we have tons of high-tech gadgets today, think of this. Yes, the smartphone in your pocket is far more powerful than any computer or technology that was available 30 or 40 years ago. But think back to the dawn of humanity, a time of cavemen and cave paintings. During this time, there was a group of humans that were able to communicate with each other using nothing but carved text that they created on their own. They were able to carry out full conversations and keep track of payments and debts using nothing more than a clay tablet and a stone. Pretty amazing, right? To put this into perspective, the ancient Egyptians are often believed to be one of the most advanced human civilizations to ever live. We have reason to believe they were using running water and other forms of plumbing, and they managed to build pyramids that are ridiculously huge. They did all of this with hand tools and machines they invented out of raw metal, sticks, and rope. But get this. The Sumerians were doing all of this at least 2,000 years before Egypt was formed. The Sumerians were also the original inventors of the wheel, storage facilities, irrigation systems that could hold water, government, as well as money and loans. The Sumerians were met with countless difficulties throughout their lives, and for the most part, they were at the mercy of nature to make sure they survived. They faced countless droughts over the years, which is likely what led them to develop ways of holding water in large reservoirs, then watering their crops with it during times of no rain. They settled around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and just like the Egyptians, they would use the sky, sun, moon, and stars to develop a very basic calendar. This would help them understand when they needed to plant crops and when they needed to harvest them. They would also be able to predict droughts or periods of heavy rainfall so that they could adjust their agriculture to fit what Mother Nature had in store for them. To take this even further, the Sumerians would also establish the first metropolis in the world, known as Uruk. After this, they would establish Babylon, which remained one of the most important cities in the world for thousands of years. The Gods of the Sumerians. It may shock you to know that the Sumerians, unlike many civilizations, would worship human-like gods. We know that a lot of humans around this time would worship inanimate objects like the sun, the clouds, the moon, or other objects. The Sumerians had different beliefs, though. They would worship a series of gods that they claimed were in control of everything on the earth. They would worship On, the sky god, Enki, the creator of the earth, and Enlil, the god of wind. They also worshiped Nama, who was considered to be the source of all life. They also claimed that Anuna was the name of a divine council of elders. The Sumerians claimed that the Anunnaki were members of this council and would oversee everything humanity did or created. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Were the Anunnaki more than gods? A French archaeologist named Paul-Émile Botta was the first man to excavate the remains of a Sumerian city. He visited an area near Iraq in a location that is known as Khorsabad. He was on a mission to locate and document various locations that were mentioned in the Bible, and the lost cities of the Sumerians were first on his list. In the remnants of the city that had long been covered in sand, mud, and dirt, he found 14 tablets that many people believe are the first historical documents ever written by man. These tablets were truly incredible, but it would take several decades before we would be able to understand the story that these tablets told. Of the tablets, a few would contradict each other, calling into question the validity of their content. The tablets showed images of humans, as well as giant beings that were called the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were surrounded by much smaller people, but we don't know if these individuals were meant to represent humans or servants of the Anunnaki. The images show humans carrying around goods in baskets, much like other cave paintings or clay images from similar time periods. The tablets also tell the story of a sudden shift in Sumerian culture, when leaders are appointed to oversee the people and rule over the land. Historians have never been able to explain this strange leap in human development. What would cause these free people to suddenly decide to elect leaders to rule over them? If everything was going well for the Sumerians, as it seems it was, why would there ever be a need for a leader? Who were the Anunnaki really? This leads many people to wonder if the Anunnaki could have been leaders of a foreign world, essentially making the Anunnaki an alien race. If these aliens ruled over other worlds, it would make sense that they would introduce leadership to humans and help them elect a leader that would take care of them the best way possible. A theory has been shared around that, admittedly, it's a bit difficult to believe. The theory suggests that the Anunnaki were an alien race that inhabited a planet known as Nibiru. This planet would have been very well established and likely had a very high moral compass. Though the Anunnaki eventually destroyed the atmosphere on their planet and were forced to flee in search of other worlds. They would then bring back resources to their home planet of Nibiru to try to save their race from extinction. This theory claims that they visited Earth and established humanity as a way for us to harvest gold and other precious metals for them. I mean, think about it. We've been mining gold for years, and it's often considered one of the most valuable metals on Earth. Even as we speak, gold is sitting in dozens of hidden locations around the world, locked behind giant metal doors that keep the metal safe from prying eyes. If this truly is the mission for humanity, then it's possible the mission of mining gold has made its way into the highest forms of government, which is why most monetary systems around the world use gold as their foundation. The Anunnaki tablets continue on and tell the story of a separate race of people known as the Igigi. These people would have likely been the ones who were much smaller than the Anunnaki, as they are said to have been slaves. These slaves were put here to work alongside the Sumerians and mine gold, giving it back to the Anunnaki when they were done. They would have mined several areas of Mesopotamia and then sent this gold back home to Nibiru. The theory concludes that the Anunnaki were not gods, as the Sumerians originally thought. Rather, they were aliens that were using Earth for its resources, then leaving us in the dark when they no longer had a use for us. The work of the Anunnaki on Earth. Back in 1976, an author and researcher named Zecharia Sitchin dug deeply into the history of the Anunnaki and found that several of the ancient tablets had been misinterpreted. He claims that there were several errors in the historical reports and came up with his own method of translating the tablets. He says that his new understanding of the tablets would change the history of the Sumerians and the history of humanity forever. According to his research, he believes that the Anunnaki were not gods or elders. Rather, the most direct interpretation of the text would label them as being who came from the stars. This adds more fuel to the theory of the Anunnaki being aliens. He says that the Anunnaki would have set up cities on Earth over 400,000 years ago and had been actively mining our planet for hundreds of thousands of years before humanity came into the picture. This begs us to question how old humanity really is. How old is humanity really? Many scientific textbooks will lead you to believe that humans are hundreds of thousands of years old. However, the evidence we have found does not support this theory. According to various researchers and advanced dating techniques, modern humans would have only been on Earth between 10,000 and 6,000 years ago. There's a possibility that cavemen and apes could have walked the Earth before then, but there's a significant leap in human genetics that cannot be explained yet. For this reason, the oldest modern humans with DNA that is similar to our own could have only existed for about 10,000 years. This opens up so many possibilities about the races of pre-humans or animals that would have roamed the Earth before modern humans were ever brought into the picture. At the moment, we simply don't have enough evidence or data to definitively say when modern humanity began. However, by all means, the data seems to suggest that we have only been around for a few thousand years, though there were obviously other beings and creatures that we cannot explain that have roamed the Earth for millennia. The Anunnaki and humans. This leads us to the theory of the missing link that would explain the sudden jump in human history that led us from being mindless apes to modern humans that are capable of complex thoughts. Some researchers and historical documents from the Sumerians suggest that the Anunnaki genetically altered mankind, potentially mating with early humanoid creatures, and thus created humanity as we know it. This theory says that the Anunnaki grew angry with the work that was being done on the Earth, so they created a new breed of servants that would continue their mining operations. They say that the god Enki was the designer behind this new breed of human, and that he named his new creation Adamu, which would obviously explain the creation of Adam and Eve in the Bible. Adamu would have been a prototype human, with Eve being the follow-up human that was capable of reproduction. The theory claims that most of the Anunnaki wanted to leave humanity behind, but that Enki was incredibly pleased with his work. The Anunnaki knew that a great flood and other natural disasters were on the horizon, but Enki would do everything he could to teach humanity how to overcome these struggles, instructing several humans how to build large ships to survive. If you haven't caught on already, these stories directly tie together with stories from the Bible that have been circulating for countless years. The theories say that Enki is an Anunnaki who desperately wants humanity to prosper, while Enlil wants to see them fail, thus tying Enlil directly to the devil. This mysterious 12th planet known as Nibiru has never been discovered, and it's possible it never even existed. According to translations of the clay tablets, the planet will only circle the Earth's orbit once every 3,600 years. They say that the arrival of Nibiru will be felt by the increasing number of storms and violent natural disasters that will take place as it nears our planet. How do you feel about the Anunnaki? Do you believe they actually existed? Or were these stories made up as a way for humans to better understand the creation of man? Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos.